Hi, my name is Gene Tatro. Today I'm going to give you an update on ONE Lab. The pace of change in the life science industry is both exciting and extraordinary, resulting in core paradigm shifts in both strategies and processes for key industry stakeholders. Leading life science manufacturers are understanding that in order to meet these challenges, they must excel in scientific leadership and innovate in processes throughout their ecosystem to create competitive advantage and deliver holistic patient and physical-centric experiences. The business transformation required by life science companies includes core shifts in business processes, strategic planning, regulatory frameworks, as well as the technological solutions. They're shifting their focus to deliver superior patient-centric, outcome-driven experiences and create the processes to support them. Paper-based systems and/or disconnected systems are still predominant and make sharing and leveraging existing knowledge difficult. Working on a global scale with products developed, manufactured, and tested all over the world adds extra complexity to collaboration and exchange of data and methods. Tech transfer between different domains is key for successful operations, but at the same time it's hindered by a lack of integration and difficult collaboration. Increased competition from generics as well as significant discounts on the list price of drugs demanded by governments are driving margins down and require budget cuts in all areas. This means operations need to reduce costs to compensate, making their processes more efficient and less resource intensive. Only 2 out of every 10 marketed drugs produce revenues that meet or exceed development costs. However, a disconnected lab is causing challenges that hinder an optimized state of lab operations. There are multiple method authoring systems and execution platforms. There are overlapping, inconsistent functionality in multiple systems. There's loose integration of existing systems, such as ELN, LES, MES. And data is locked in silos, which is not transferable and not easily analyzed. And that data is in disparate formats, such that the data cannot be easily combined. All of this is built on a lack of a consistent data model between the systems, and there are many manual activities which are error-prone and inefficient. Across all these systems and processes, there's very little consistency in data. We need to move from the paper, manual processes shown on the left to the digital, automated processes shown on the right. At Dasso, we've created the first end-to-end scientific and business platform, from research and discovery to commercialization, preclinical development, clinical testing, and manufacturing. If we zoom in and take a look at ONE Lab, we're going to talk about small molecule process development, biologics process development, drug product development, analytical development, and batch release. If we look at each of the industry processes from research to batch release, with all of those processes in ONE Lab, we have a standard understanding and usage of laboratory equipment, materials, and processing steps. And this reduces the redundant work and provides faster insight to the desired endpoint. A better understanding of the processes and data provide knowledge to be used empirically or to build and refine models to be used for future laboratory experimentation and testing. If we take a look at the major steps of the laboratory work needs to be planned and managed, which means that the work, like the execution of tests, is requested. The requests are reviewed and scheduled and confirmed, and the resources need to be allocated. These resources include materials and equipment for testing, the personnel to execute the work, and the samples that are actually tested. Methods and procedures are developed and adapted if required and need to be managed. These methods and specifications will be used for the execution of the lab work, where tests are prepared and performed. Then the raw data are collected and compiled, and results are interpreted for reporting. Reports can span from certificates of analysis to documents for research that might result in the need for further testing. With all of these moving parts, any inefficiency can greatly slow down the overall process, majorly drive up operating costs, and significantly increase the bottleneck. Modernizing the laboratory workflow and removing this inefficiency is just one of the key values offered by ONE Lab. At the basis of ONE Lab are the unified lab services. This is a service-oriented architecture based on standard and scalable building blocks. There are services for managing data, for managing materials and equipment, for managing the planning of the laboratory operations, the execution of the procedures to make and test things in the lab, the management of the experiments, and the personnel. These unified lab services are standardized scientific services and data models that are open for BioVia to build our applications and for other partners to integrate with our applications. These are built with scalability and compliance in mind, with continuity and connection across data, providing continuity and connection of data across research, development, testing, and manufacturing of products, and designed for highly regulated experiment-based process industries. ONE Lab is based on standard reference data and ontologies. We have a common master data management capability for managing units, vocabularies, and parameters. And these parameters are used for equipment measurements, material characteristics, and unit operations and actions. All of the master data is managed in the ONE Lab administration and settings. On top of the master data, we have the ability to manage laboratory equipment assets, the data acquisition from those equipment, and the metrology of the equipment. We've built a comprehensive system that allows us to connect to directly to simple devices in the lab, devices that create files, and more complex devices that require an integration through web services. As you can see here, we have a comprehensive equipment library that we reuse from one customer to the next. We come into your lab, we set up your equipment, we use our library of equipment. We use our library of equipment to set up your lab. What additional equipment is required, we can configure in the system and add to our library. Everything that happens in the laboratory is based on a procedure. There are procedures for calibrating equipment. There are procedures for training personnel. There are procedures for cleaning equipment and rooms. There are recipes for making materials, analytical methods for characterizing and testing materials. We've built a comprehensive recipe and method management system based on S88, S95, and based on the industry standard S88, S95. In there, we have an ability to set up platform methods and recipes, which enables tech transfer from development to manufacturing. And all of this is linked to equipment and materials. Now that we have the procedures, we can go into the lab and execute those procedures on a tablet. We can link directly to equipment and materials by scanning the barcode of the equipment or the material, collect information about it. We can enforce limits and tolerances, record manual observations, collect data via validated calculations, and we can make the right informed decision at the time we're executing the method. When the method is done being executed, we have a review by exception paradigm. The review by exception gives us the ability to filter the data based on how it was collected and if there were any observations on that data. For example, if a piece of data was collected and it's out of limit, it'll be flagged with an out of limit indicator and can be easily seen on the screen. So the reviewer doesn't review all the data, they review the data that has exceptions on it only. So the whole workflow of managing the testing of a material is based on having a specification that defines the tests that need to be executed, the samples that need to be tested, and the overall workflow for collecting those samples, requesting the testing, executing the testing, reviewing all the tests, and generating a certificate of analysis. As we get samples into the lab, we need to manage the sample chain of custody from the time it comes into the lab until the sample has been tested and disposed of. We need to keep track of who handled the sample, how they handled it, how long it was out of the refrigerator, and all of the operations that occurred for that particular sample. Of course, as we're working in the lab, we're dealing with many different types of materials. Materials can be reagents, they could be consumables, they could be biologics or chemicals. We keep track of all of the material inventory using our inventory capabilities. We have the ability to define materials, manage the receipt and collection of containers of those materials, the logistics around moving the materials in and around the lab, and all of the regulatory around handling those materials. And of course, in the laboratory, we have the need and desire to execute experiments. For these experiments can be process chemistry, analytical chemistry, medicinal chemistry, target ID validation, pharmacology, biologics, formulation, both large and small molecule. All of this needs to be standard and out of the box, but also configurable to what the customer needs. We need to have secure document versioning, electronic signatures and audit trails, integration with equipment and other systems that overall improves the process and documentation. All of this improves collaboration and collective intelligence. After we're done executing the tests and the experiments, we have the ability to search internal and external content, work with common chemical representation, including biologics, design custom search forms, and completely configure the interactive charts and graphs, including different types of formatting and statistical data aggregation. And new in 2020, we have the stability design and tracking application, where we can design, execute, and monitor stability studies. Each of the stability studies could have various time points and stress conditions, different material interactions, the linking to the samples and the tasks associated with each of the time poles, the ability to monitor the stability study as the study progresses, and the ability to generate stability study reports. It new also in 2020 is the ability to deploy all of ONE Lab in Science Cloud. Science Cloud has been around for almost 10 years now. It's ISO 27001 certified. It's all available on Amazon Web Services, and we provide a complete validated environment for Science Cloud customers. These include sandbox systems, test systems, and production systems. So working with ONE Lab, you have the ability to transfer data automatically, provide immediate overview of the status of all of your resources. It enables analytics. It allows real-time data sharing and collaboration, and it allows you to focus on the science. ONE Lab provides the ability to optimize laboratories and leverage knowledge to improve time to market, providing better collaboration and innovation, reduced compliance risk, productivity and efficiency enhancements, and cycle time reduction.